This is both sides of China. In the next 7 minutes, you're going to understand a pattern that lets you predict geopolitical moves before they happen. That's systems thinking. On January 16th, Canada shocked Washington. Prime Minister Mark Carney slashed tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles from 100% to 6.1%. This opened the door to 49,000 Chinese-made EVs annually, rising to 70,000 within 5 years. 3 weeks earlier, the U.S. imposed a 100% tariff to protect American automakers. Canada had matched it. Then, without warning, Canada reversed course. The real question: why would Canada break ranks with its closest ally and risk its own auto industry right after the U.S. imposed tariffs specifically to block Chinese cars? The official answer is climate change. The actual answer is sitting in Saskatchewan's fields. The Canola Leverage. Canada exports $3.6 billion of canola to China annually. For prairie farmers, China's market isn't just important, it's existential. In August 2025, China announced a 75.8% anti-dumping duty on Canadian canola seed. Official reason: anti-dumping investigation. Real reason: clear message, we control your agricultural sector. Then silence, 6 months, farmers panicking, prices collapsing. On January 27th, 11 days after Canada cut EV tariffs, Chinese importers announced they were buying 650,000 metric tons of Canadian canola. This wasn't a trade negotiation, this was a hostage negotiation with Saskatchewan canola farmers as leverage. China didn't even pretend otherwise. Tariff lifted, canola buying resumed, message received. The system: why this works. China didn't threaten agriculture to negotiate agriculture. They threatened agriculture to control an unrelated policy sector, EVs. This is cross-sectoral coercion, and it's devastatingly effective. Think about the political fragmentation. Saskatchewan farmers vote differently than Ontario automakers. They're in different regions, different parties. A government must keep both happy to survive. China knows this. They're operating a chess computer against a government juggling 5 political constituencies. So the political calculation for Justin Trudeau was brutally simple. Keep the tariff, protect Ontario automakers, but lose Saskatchewan and Manitoba in the next election. Or cut the tariff, anger Washington quietly, and save the farm vote. There's only one rational choice when elections matter. Here's what's critical. This isn't an accident. This is the playbook. The CCP looks for 3 specific conditions: countries with high export dependence on China in politically sensitive sectors, the kind of exports that matter to swing voters, face vulnerability. Add upcoming elections where those sectors influence the vote outcome, and you've got pressure building. Then, if China wants concessions in completely unrelated policy areas, the formula is complete. Canada is the perfect example. Farmers across the prairie provinces dependent on China for 40% of their canola exports. That's their lifeblood, not a side business. Elections were anticipated in 2025 and 2026, and those prairie provinces, Saskatchewan and Manitoba, are swing regions that determine whether the government stays in power. And the third condition: China wanted Canada to change its EV policy to compete with Tesla and Western manufacturers. All 3 elements were in place. China pulled the lever. The system produced exactly the outcome Beijing predicted. This wasn't luck, this was calculation. The math works because it's systematic. What makes this chilling is that it's not unique to Canada. The historical pattern: you see this pattern repeat because it works. Australia called for a COVID inquiry in 2020. China responded with wine tariffs. 6 years later, after Australia muted criticism, tariffs eased. Same with Norway in 2010. Nobel Prize to a democracy activist, Chinese salmon embargo until Norway apologized. South Korea deployed the THAAD system. China stopped tourism and entertainment imports until South Korea made concessions. Each time, different country, different sector targeted, one identical result. Democratic government complies when economic pressure hits the right political nerve. Why? 3 structural vulnerabilities democracies can't escape. First, election cycles force leaders to optimize for immediate political survival, not long-term strategy. The CCP doesn't have elections. They play the long game, 10, 20 years ahead. Second, WTO disputes take 3-5 years to litigate. By the time you get a ruling, damage is done and concessions already made. Third, each country negotiates alone without collective defense. China picks off targets one by one. The intelligence advantage. So what do you actually win from understanding this? First, you become a predictor, not a reactor. Find a country with high export dependence on China in politically sensitive sectors, facing upcoming elections where those sectors matter. Identify unrelated policies China wants changed. When all three align, you know exactly what happens next. You're not guessing. You're reading the play before it unfolds. Second, you stop being fooled by the cover story, climate policy, anti-dumping, safety standards. These are just administrative skins for political leverage. You ask, who benefits? What's the leverage point? Which election matters? And suddenly, you see the system underneath the narrative. Third, you understand why democracies keep losing, not because leaders are weak, but because they're predictable. Democratic systems are structurally vulnerable to this kind of pressure. The CCP knows this. They've weaponized it. Once you see cross-sectoral coercion, you can't unsee it. And that's the difference between reading the news and understanding the game. This is the power of systems thinking. Not memorizing facts, not following headlines, understanding how the machine actually works. Once you see this pattern, you can't unsee it. And that changes how you predict the future. The next time China moves against a country you care about, or a trade sector that affects you, you won't just be confused. You'll understand exactly why it happened and what it means. That's what we do at both sides of China. We don't just tell you what happened. We show you how the CCP thinks. We show you the patterns. We show you how to predict what comes next. Access the full intelligence. If you want this kind of analysis, the kind that explains the system, not just the news, subscribe. The full sources, translated documents, and detailed data breakdown is on our Substack. That's where we go really deep. Link in the description. This is Both Sides of China, understanding the system, predicting the future,